Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Ben from Ben by the Books, where we look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and should I even buy this book. If you like these type of short book reviews where I go over just the bare bones of the book, please consider subscribing, hitting the like, sharing wherever you watch videos. And today we're going to go over one of the books that I read towards the very end of 2025 that I absolutely loved. It was Nest by Terry Goodkind. Now this was, again, a part of a group of books that I got for super cheap when I was working in the retail world. Again, there's a lot of these hardcovers that are just kind of just random ones that I've had over the last few years I've been meaning to get to, and I was very, very excited to get into this one. Again, this was on my shelf for a little over a couple of years, I would say. Never had a chance to really get to it, but I decided to last year, towards the very end of last year, and I was so very, very happy to get to it. So let's get into the good, the bad, the ugly, and should you even get Nest by Terry Goodkind. So let's start with the good. So this is a story about a girl named Kate Bishop. I believe it is part of a series, if I remember correctly. And she has the ability to look at people in the eye and tell if they are good or bad. So if they're killers or not. And it's a more of a psychological ability. The book goes into her brother having the same ability, so it's like a hereditary type of ability, which I think is really cool. Something that's a little bit different that we haven't seen in a while. So it starts off really, really good about the brother, and he's doing all these things to keep this person locked up, and then the person escapes and the brother dies towards the very beginning. So it's kind of like the cold open of this one. And it goes into Kate's life and how her and her brother weren't really, not really friends or not really getting along, but they were just kind of very set far apart. The brother was very like a reclusey type of person. So the brother was always far away from everybody. So it goes into her investigating or helping to investigate the murder of her own brother, and there's family members involved with it. So it gets a little confusing in terms of why Kate is doing the things that she's doing. But then she ends up meeting this person by the name of Jack Rains eventually. And Jack is this type of character that is very, very mysterious. There's not really much about him. And he's the one that kind of knows more about her ability. So she seeks him out, and then it kind of follows her, Kate, going into this type of underworldy like situation with Jack. Whereas Jack is doing a lot of these very, very top secret, dark internet, CIA, FBI, whatever you want to call it, very dark, secretive things that are just kind of off the grid. There's not really much known about him, but later on they get into the main premise of the story, which is there's the killer that was out against Kate's brother. There's actually a whole group of them, and they make this website that's called the Scavenger Hunt website. And it's basically these super predator killers go onto this website and they find people that they specifically want to kill, and if they kill them, they tell this organization that they've killed this person on the website. The organization kind of owes them money or status. So it's like a very, it's like the international crime syndicates that you kind of see in the James Bond movies or any other type of, I don't know, spy movie that you would see on movies and TV. So that was really interesting to see. And then there's this really good plot twist that's towards the very end, where one of the main characters is actually helping Jack, was actually the one that made the website and like funded it with all of her money. Ends up being one of the editors for Jack's book, because Jack writes a lot of books in this story. So it's actually the editor that betrays them towards the end. And there's all these other super predators that are after them, so it gets really, really action-packed towards the very end. I would say the middle's kind of slow. The beginning opens up with a bang, and then the middle's, it slows down a little bit. There's a lot of exposition stuff, and then towards the end just kind of explodes, and it's really, really good. The ending for this one was amazing. I think there's more in this series. I have to look to see, but I think if there's not any more to this series, I'll be very, very disappointed. So that was all of the good stuff. So again, this was a really, really good book. I loved the pacing. I wish the middle kind of picked up a little bit more, but I can see why it slows down, because again, there's a lot of investigative work that Kate has to do, along with like the murders of like her brother and stuff. So I can see why it's kind of slow. The plot twist is really great, and then the ending is just great in itself. The bad. So there are some bad things I didn't really like about this book. I didn't like how there was multiple villains. I wish that there was more than just one. I wish there was just one central villain, because there is a central villain in this book, but it's more of, the central villain is more like all the people that are involved with the scavenger hunt website, and it's not like a main villain. You know, like the main bad guy in the beginning, the guy who kills Kate's brother, ends up being killed by Jack within the first 150 pages of the book. So then it doesn't, it kind of escalates a little bit. There's other villains, the other super predators that become more and more powerful. Like the higher they have their own ranking, I guess you would say. There's this own ranking of super predators. So there's all these different rankings, and some of them are more violent than others. They do encounter one super predator that's named Victor, who actually goes after both Jack and Kate towards the area, and I guess he's like one of the top ones, but there's no other indication of a main strong villain besides this Victor guy and the editor that is in this book. I think her name is Shannon. She's like one of the main villains that operates the scavenger hunt website, or funds it, or something along those lines. I just wish there was more of a main, like this is Kate and Jack against a main villain, instead of Jack and Kate against like this international syndicate. So that's one of the bad things. I think the plot twist, although I liked it, I think it was kind of expected, because there's no, the book doesn't really give any other indication of who would know more about Jack to portray him other than his editor, who's the only person who really works with him. So I think it was a good idea, but it just doesn't really work out. It's kind of predictable that, they're gonna betray each other. So uglies, I don't think there's anything ugly about this book besides the fact there's not a main villain. So I guess if you want a book that has more of a main villain focus, this might not be the one for you. That I could say that's the only ugly thing. It is kind of long. It's about probably 450 pages ish, so it's kind of a longer read, but I think the ending might have been just a little bit too long, because it just kind of ends, and then there's like a couple other scenes after that I don't think we really needed, but it kind of drags it out a little bit to that 430 page mark ish. So should you get this book? Should you get Nest by Terry Goodkind? I would say yes. I gave this a 4 stars out of 5 on my own Goodreads. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I highly would recommend you reading it. Again, if you like these types of thriller ones that has a different premise, again, I think looking at somebody and figuring out if they're a killer or not is a super cool sort of superpower that we don't really see. You know, when we think of superpowers, you think of, super strength or lasers through the eyes, or any other things like that. But to be able to tell if somebody is a good or a bad person just by looking at them, that's definitely a superpower that is definitely kind of underrated. Again, if this is part of a series, I would like to definitely read more of it in the future, because again, I really like this book. I like the premise of it. Again, the middle was a little slow. I can see why. And then the ending was kind of explosive, and then there's just parts in the ending that's kind of too long. It just kind of ends. There's not really any there's more of a conclusion for Kate's character, because she's kind of the main character, but for Jack Rains, there's kind of no real conclusion at the end. It just kind of ends. They both unfortunately go their separate ways at the end. So there's this alluding romance between both Kate and Jack, which is kind of explored a little bit throughout the story, but then it just kind of ends somewhere. So I don't know I don't know if that was part of it, or I don't know if that was supposed to even make it in the final drafts of this one. But overall, this one, Terry Goodkind, Nest was definitely worth the read. It was a great story, great plot, action, everything you could ever want in a different type of thriller story that I would totally read over and over and over again, if I had the time and the chance to. Maybe I will someday. Maybe I'll read it again in another year and see if I still like it the same way that I'm reacting to it right now. And that is the video. Terry Goodkind's Nest, 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. Definitely worth the read if you like this type of thriller stuff. I like the cover, by the way. It's really cool. If you like more of this content, this more of short form book review type of videos, please remember to subscribe to Ben by the Books. Subscribe to the channel. Look at all the other videos. There's going to be playlists for all the videos to watch on your own time, so you don't have to watch them in order. And remember to like and share and subscribe to wherever you watch your videos, and I will see you all next time.